form of the design. The structure of the main book is organized here, like introduction, why ritual now, what is ritual and the collective identity, ritual in contemporary practice, from ritual to space. So I briefly review different theoretical perspective on ritual drawn from sociology, performance study, and the Chinese Confucian thought. One key reference is Huang Huizinger, especially his concept of magic circle theory, as you can see here. And I also developed my own ritual mechanism, like the drawing here consists of space, objects, participants, performance, rules, and resonance. And there are different case studies also talking about collective identity. And among all the case study, one of the main is this contemporary palace banquet, which is popular in China. And it's understand as an immersive cultural experience that combines dining, performance, costume, and spatial staging into a carefully orchestrated event. And you can see the whole analyze and the procession where you can enter, change clothes, get photo shooting, and eat and get the experience. So here are some images and the research of different stages and some drawings, and also some cultural codes in behind. And then at the back, I also kind of analyze different dining scenarios choreographically, like in the history, how the Chinese dining together derived from the old palace time to more educated literature scenario having fun together. Yeah. And then here in the appendix, there are also some side aspects analyzed, which like ritual object atlas and also some other phenomena and bibliography. In the objects, you can see there are different categories of ritual objects that associate with ritual beliefs, ritual servicing, and also spatial objects, and with also a ritual mechanism. And here, the phenomenon, other phenomena you can see, there are also medieval times dinner party, which is a kind of like a Western palace banquets, kind of. And there are also funeral analyzed. There are also historical performance stage. And in the back, I also analyze the whole history of Chinese clothing. How does it change through the time? And the funeral drawings. Yeah. So finally, I want to talk briefly to explain the design of the book itself. I believe that book is also a kind of like object that's contain experience while you read it. You feel the culture. So I deliberately designed this kind of like a quasi-Chinese design. When you read this, you can see this kind of like mimicking this Chinese painting, this endless of one paper. And there are also different way of reading because traditionally the Chinese reading goes to right, to the left, and the modern way, I don't know, goes from the left to right. So the English text is on the front side, and the traditional experience is on the back. And also, additionally, I designed these stamps, where stamps is kind of like a temporal memory, which knowledge pass on generation by generation. So overall, the project not only trying to research on the whole ideology of the ritual and the ritual mechanism, also the book itself also service as a kind of like a design tryout, which tradition and contemporary elements kind of like assembled together to test out how they could go at the end, which maybe indicates my further design exploration. Yeah, that's it.
Hi, hi Mohammed. So my research was about future urban space and future cities. The research looks at the topic from two standpoints. One from scientific future studies and maybe philosophical standpoint, and on the other hand, it looks at the topic from like it reads how future cities have been looked at from in popular culture and specifically in novels. So for the research, I developed an app that utilizes language models to go through these books. So it's a text-based research book, basically. So I have the table of contents and then an abstract and an introduction to the topic, the way that the research has been conducted. And then I have two main chapters. One is the future studies, which I looked into some books and texts from mainly Jeremy Rifkin and David Chalmers, and one or two more others. And as a result of the future studies, I extracted 140 codes of the topics that in these future studies are addressed and are related to the urban space somehow. And I categorized them into 8 categories: urban systems, infrastructure and mobility, urban form, space and architecture, environment and nature, society, culture and politics, technology, transmedia and virtuality, time, temporality and futures, economy, labor and production. And each code comes with a number, which is important for the research in the next phase, and also with a clear definition. And then in the next chapter, I took 20 books, mainly novels that are taking place in the future, and the urban spaces also has a prominent role in the narrative. So in the first part of this chapter, I have an overview of each book, like what it's talking about, how is it related to this research, and an overview of the 8 categories, the way it is addressed in each book, and also an overview of the cities that are described in each book. So we have basically one spread per book, and then we reach to a point where I have a text for each code, and the way this code and this topic has been developed throughout these texts. Like the first book that I have is for 150 years ago, and the recent one is in 21st century. So it can like give us an overview how these topics and the way they have been thought of has been changed throughout the history, or even if they're addressed or not. So I have one overview of for each code, and these overviews are based on these tables that I have in the appendix. So for each code, I have one table. And in this table, I have excerpts from each book, and also an overview how the code was dealt with in this specific book. The excerpts are there to support the finding, and to know how accurate the finding is. As you can see, some of the codes are talked about in almost all of the books, but some of them are not addressed as much. So I had to have some charts to see what's going on here. The charts are in the main body. So this chart shows which categories are more covered in the text. And this one is more in details, has all of the codes and how many books have addressed each book. As you can see, some of the topics that has been talked about in the future studies hasn't been talked about in the novels, but some of them are, almost all of the books are addressing them. So like, and probably it's a good chart for me to like for the city that I want to work with. Probably I'm going to have a more have more focus on the topics that hasn't been addressed in the past future urban spaces. And then I have a glossary of the phrases and terminologies that I've used in the research book, and also the bibliography and acknowledgements. And that's about it.
Great, Danylo. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Amro, and this is my research book. So I was already thinking about different aspects of value and stuff, and I was also thinking about it when it came to the book itself. So what makes a hardcover a cover? What makes a cover a cover? And I thought, okay, it would be interesting to make all the book all alike and cover it in a plastic bag. And I wrote here, easy lunch. And yeah, I don't know. This is the cover page, and it shows the contents. And as I was working on the book, I realized instead of a very serious research book, it's more like a easy toilet read, I would say, where I explore different aspects of things, mainly related to trash, of course. And yeah, so the book explores, the book name is Trash is Online, which is there is trash online and trash is active online. And yeah, I explored in the book trash as an object and trash as an idea. And then I got deeper into electronic trash and data trash. Vacuum sealed some elements to scan. So these are cigarette butts. This is hair. I also prepared some drawings, which is like the satellite problem. And yeah. And yeah, a lot of this book actually is kind of opinions based on research. I try to also map out certain global trends of trash and material and whatnot. What else should I say, actually? Yeah, this is pictures taken from a collection center in Denmark. And yeah, it's my big intention was to kind of introduce the topic and the way I perceived it, and then to just make it accessible and also spark interest. And also over here, for example, I added some of the songs that I was listening to and inspired me in the way I was thinking. And I thought, yeah, it was interesting to just leave it there. And I put the lyrics there and the reference to the song, just, I don't know, so that you can have a look at it and think of it how you would like, actually, once you're going through the book. And yeah, also flow diagrams were a big part of the book because, yeah, they're really readable and it's easy to understand what they're about and what they explain. Centers. Some ASCII art, which is kind of was famous in the early 2000s, I think. Yeah. And then, after this, one part of the book that was really interesting was the scenarios, where using all the explorations and things I thought about, I thought that, okay, maybe I try to already kind of imagine what my diploma project would be. So I came up with these scenarios. Some of them are really not doable. Some of them are kind of doable. So in this example, for example, I said, okay, because there is a lot of data trash in the world, maybe we can release a virus that just deletes a lot of the old data. And yeah, certain thoughts here too, similar thoughts and so on. And yeah, also based on the explorations, I also came up with experiments, which I just kind of put in the form of models. So I just grabbed leftovers of trash and electronic trash, and I just put them together as this sort of conceptual models. These are all the findings. This is the conclusion. I thought, yeah, it makes sense to put the disclaimers at the end, maybe not so much. I realized it doesn't make sense after I finished the book. But with the acknowledgements, I thought, yeah, it makes more sense because acknowledgements, I feel like, come at the end of the work rather than before someone starts working on something. So yeah, this is the bibliography, list of figures and glossary explained. And yeah, this is how much bytes the book was after it was done. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
My name is Kimia, and my research was about the architecture of transparency, and I was focusing very much into vitrines and the history of vitrines. Can you put this there? So the whole idea started with the modernist idea of transparency, that it's associated with openness and honestly and being accessible. And in this research, I'm a little bit questioning that. And for me, vitrine was a nice choice to look into this phenomena of transparency. How the vitrine itself is kind of curating, controlling, and bringing value to the space. And I organized the book within the relation to the scale. So I start with the small scale of transparent boxes and vitrines, and then going into the scale of human and then architecture and urban context. So I start with studying through Wardian cases and aquariums, and that the main goal of having vitrine during that time was not to exhibit something, but to preserve a certain condition. And it was interesting for me, for example, in this case with the aquarium, how it brings the social hierarchy at some point. And for example, men were responsible to take care of the aquariums and knowing knowledge about it, while others were supposed only to observe and they were not involved further. And then I was looking into the technological aspect and how vitrine started to go into a bigger scale, how the transparency goes to a bigger scale, and glass becomes an urban element. And so for me, it was interesting to look into the involvement of body in the process. And for example, I have this example of wearable magic lantern, where the body were wearing these devices and going through the urban environment and projecting advertisements to the surfaces. So at this point, it's not about the glass itself anymore, but it's about a condition of being transparent, and then all of the idea of having human encapsulated to protect or to be in an environment within this separation was kind of involved. And then I have this example of Crystal Palace, when the glass box becomes an architectural building, and the human body and vitrine itself is also part of this big glass box. And it's kind of starting of how human body can also be involved in the process of exhibiting something. And yeah, so then going a little bit back to the history of exhibitions and how to curate the space. And for me, the next chapter was the commercial spaces and the idea of window shopping, and that the act of shopping became part of the urban performance. So the whole movement through the city got changed because of this amount of glass facade, and all the experience of the urban life became kind of visual. And yeah, and then I have this example of red light street in Amsterdam, when it's going very excessive with the exhibiting human body through this windows, and having still this separation, but gaining the attention of the environment. And I also looked a bit into the publicness of these vitrines, that although they're exhibiting a lot and they're showcasing and curating the space, they're not really inviting people to enter. So the entry part is always kind of stays out of hand. And for me, it was also interesting to look into how machine would read transparent spaces. So I have these 3D scans, and I tried to capture glass with different conditions in different light settings. I tried to capture it within different distances to the glass facade, and I also tried to understand if the 3D scans can understand the attention and gaze, so if they can actually do window shopping. And because the whole research was not organized in the historical kind of hierarchy, I also have a sheet where I put everything also in relation to time. So I have the period of time, and I have the type of vitrines and the examples that there were at the time, and the whole kind of light system strategy, and then the type of threshold it would create in that. Yeah, so for me, it was like not so much about rejecting the transparency, but more about understanding it as a spatial condition, not maybe so much as a material, and how we can kind of expand this into the spatial experience, more than a separation glass surface from inside and out. Yeah, so that's it.
Thank you for that. If you could say something about the book cover and how you produced it and
Yeah, I binded it myself, and for me this reflection was kind of interesting because I think it's also kind of related to what I'm talking about the effect of a certain object. And then I had this glass box, and I thought it's nice that if the book itself is also kind of getting curated. And for me, when I put it inside the box, it's already feeling very precious or like holy in some ways. So yeah, that was.
how did you do the lettering?
Which part?
The embossed lettering in the book, the cover? Did you do that?
In the binding workshop.
How you went to it?
Yes. So yeah.
There
Which
is
one
a
you-
machine,
Yes.
put the lettering into.
Yes, and you can also do it with colors, but I just pressed it.
So I would like to start with a little bit of a personal story because I think, as we all know, when students are starting to do a diploma, they have a unique chance to choose a topic of own. And usually it also correlates with the personal part of life, own life too. For me, as a guy who was born in Kyiv, Ukraine, which is enduring hard times now, fighting for freedom and all of that. And as an architect, I believe that each one of us also have a strong skill, not only of empathy, but of observation. Meaning that in my lifetime, I was observing so much of unique things, stuff like how people endure traumatic experiences. So I would like to say that my topic of pre-diploma and diploma is to find an answer how can we use an architecture as a medium to promote the safety and uh, health, health for all of us living inside of environment. And also one small note is that while doing pre-diploma, in the first half of pre-diploma and lately, I myself also endured quite hard times. Um, I must admit, I even almost fell into depression. But now I feel great. I feel so much great and motivated, even so that my book is not entirely finished because sewing machine has broken or something like that. But I don't care. I don't care if it's finished or not, because the most important stuff is the process of studying, of experience it. And I wanted to actually create a pillow as the cover of a book to promote a trust, an architecture of trust. So even if it's not a pillow, but it's a natural linen, and it's a natural fabric which also can feel. And I will show you the printing stuff, and it's very individual. And in the process of making this, I understood myself that we have just to accept the way we are, or the kind of trauma that we all experience. So yeah, this is my acknowledgement, because I would like to say a couple of phrases that this work would not have been possible without the support, inspiration, and knowledge of many people who accompanied me throughout this journey. If you want, you can read later. And here's my content. 1 second. I start to with the introduction, and I start with telling a story of a revolution of dignity, which had started in 2014 years. It was a starting turning point for my country and my people to unite and question ourselves for what we are living. Yeah. So I want to actually show you some pictures, mostly because texts are quite a lot of words, and I know that maybe you would like to read, but it takes time. So those are pictures of how it had been in Kyiv, Ukraine. This picture is actually very symbolic. It was almost, maybe even more than 1 million people outside singing the hymn of our country, showing the fact that we do not accept what other people want to do with our country from outside, because it's our land and we want to do how we please in our land. I have been there here too. This is the main square of my city. Normally it's clean, it has flowers, it has a peaceful life, but now, back in time, it was all in fires. And I also started to study an architecture within the landscape of trauma. What if architecture could participate in trauma healing, not symbolically, but physiologically? And it's quite complex topic because it has so many branches, and most of the time in pre-diploma, I was thinking, I was looking for the best answer, and I now understand that there's no best answer. There's only everything that we can do and study and exchange knowledge. So I want to also say that I myself created three, let's say, 1 second, I'm just catching the breath. Let me show further, 1 second. The brain in architecture as well. I mean, I study so many different stuff, like in neuroarchitecture, how we perceive this the space around us. And I know that the first stuff that we perceive around is basically color and location, then color, and then all other information that we perceive. So I also remember that a lot of people that are fighting, they have, for example, partly blindness, and they cannot see lines, but they see mostly colors, which is also a very interesting point because it helped me to design a space, not thinking about lines, but actually how colors organizing the space. For example, here. And of course, I studied a couple of actual examples, one of which is the hospital Kulparkiv in Lviv, Ukraine. It's more than 150 years old. And back in times, they already, the architects and designers, they decided to create a hospital not just as a building, but as a city garden, meaning that a building inside of a park, because nature is basically the best healing element that we have. And here you can see a site plan with the main building in the middle of it and some couple other buildings, but it has a big park, which is very crucial to me. Another case study is a quite new rehabilitation center in Lviv, Ukraine, called Unbroken. It's mostly specialized in helping soldiers or veterans how to work on new prostheses or arm prostheses, how to learn once again how to eat, how to play something, how to do everything. But yeah, it's mostly a medical building, and architects and designers already started to think about this space. Yeah. Another, yeah, here's some more pictures. This is a building and a plan, how they organize it. So you can see red spots that are therapy rooms, they have medical offices, they have communication, they have common spaces as well, gastronomy, all of this stuff. Because I believe that each one of us knows what kind of premises should be included, but the hardest part is to organize it, I believe. Anyway, the most interesting case study is major centers in United Kingdom. There are dozens of them, different architectural studios has designed them. One of them, like Sarah Hadid, Norman Foster, even Frank Gehry. Each studio designed magic centers because it is founded by a foundation that provides a free support for people affected by cancer and their family. So it's not really a trauma, but I think cancer is also another way to describe a specific individual traumatic experience. But here we can see how they also implemented nature-based elements such as wood and membrane style organizing, like you could see something in between, but not fully, which promotes the safety and transparency. Here you can see some other pictures. This is another magic centers, elevated surface, different kind of layers of walls to let's see, to diversify the space, because if it's monotone, of course, it's making more stressful. Because I know for sure that if we are situated in a space that is basically has the same building, for example, and meaning that our eyes are moving faster with a higher amplitude to find something unique, and just because that our eyes might look faster, it makes us stressful. So it's very important to diversify as much as possible. Next, I also studied the worldwide accepted three-stage model of trauma treatment. So the first is phase is the safety and stabilization. The second one is trauma processing, and the third one is reconnection and integration. It's very important to understand that one cannot go through each phase without properly conducting the first phase and then second. Because, for example, if an individual complete successfully the phase number one, but not successfully the phase number two, it has to go back to number one once again, and it's like a ever going process. And the neuroarchitecture is also very interesting topic because it's quite new, and only in last 50 years, doctors are getting so much new information about how our brain works that we never imagined before, and how information stores inside of our brains. Why do we perceive, for example, why do we perceive traumatic experience, even so that trauma has been in the past? How neurons are moving around. It's very interesting. It's a lot of information, so I would not like to bore you. Yeah, and I also started to experiments in neuroarchitectural designs. I call them synesthetic practice and digital simulation. Why synesthetic? Because let me one small pause. Because I'm also doing a tribute to one fellow from my country, Ukraine, Ukrainian architect, Florian Yurev, who is a synesthete. And for the first time, he was in Siberia back in Soviet times. And in Siberia, being a kid, for the first time, he saw northern lights, and he could hear the music also that there was no sound, which gave me an idea. What if I use colors not only as a static element, but also moving elements that might trigger some thought or recollections for individual being inside of the space. So I decided to experiment using Unreal Engine 5 Niagara particles, breaking down the audio spectrum to low, medium, and high frequency. And I started to analyze how music moves in shapes of colors. And I believe it might, here you can see all that technical stuff. And what I find interesting is that if we look at colors moving in the rhythm of music, but without listening to the actual sound, our brain actually might generate a music of own inside of brain, which is very interesting, and I would love to also go deeper into that, maybe create some couple like stabilizing or processing images for individuals. Let's go further. Also, another prototype is a natural synesthesia. Meaning is that there's a guy, urban designer Mikael Colby Andersen, who was doing a lot of volunteer work in Kyiv, and he was promoting Nordic therapeutical garden with the philosophy from Nordic countries. And I also started to analyze how individual behaves inside of the garden, how it perceives the sound of birds, sounds of water moving, specific elements, wooden and stuff like that. And my parents also founded a charity foundation, which called the International Association for Support of Ukraine. And it specializes on helping combatants or war veterans to reconnect with their own families. So they created a family rehabilitation for war veterans and their families. And they created a quite interesting two-week program. Each day parents and kids have own tasks or people to engage, psychological sessions, combined session with kids and a separate session. I myself was taking a part a couple times as a photographer. And why am I also researching this? Because I myself also saw with my own eyes how veterans were changing themselves from the day number one to the last day. For example, like in the beginning, they were, of course, very stressful. They gave a lot of unnecessary anger to their own kids, but in the last days, they were much more calm and happier, which was also very interesting observation for me. And also, of course, I chose a site location in Ukraine, close to nature, forest, because I also want to use the nature as not only as a inspiration, but also as a medium to use the landscape. So, my design proposal, I would like to create a therapeutic center for war veterans and their families with 3 pavilions as a 3-stage model of trauma treatment. So the first pavilion is about stabilization and then trauma processing. The second pavilion and the last pavilion would be integration garden to reconnect with other people and the nature itself. So I think I will stop it here. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, everyone. With this, we conclude the research book presentation. And if anyone, the people from us are further curious, the books are downstairs, an extra copy.